What does today mean for Rivian and for Rivian's future?
Yeah, it's an exciting day. For us, this is the result of lots and lots and lots of effort from a variety of different folks, across the whole business. And for us, we spent years and years putting this together. And really, what's so exciting is seeing such a diverse group of people with diverse backgrounds and interests really coming together to create these products. And standing there today, looking out at the team as we rang the bell, it was quite emotional. Seeing so many passionate faces, it was really powerful. So we're excited, and of course, this is the first step of many with us becoming a public company and now having the opportunity to really accelerate a lot of our areas of focus in terms of scaling the impact that we can have with our products and with what we're building.
Right. To reiterate what's on the screen, RJ, Rivian indicated to open at $120 a share after pricing at $78 overnight. That's a big valuation. We'll do the math in due course. What is it about Rivian's technology and the company that justifies that valuation?
I think as you look at our business, there's really two arms. We have a consumer side of the business, and really the tip of the spear, the first products, what we often think about is the products that'll open the brand umbrella are our R1T and our R1S. And they're really going into a segment that hasn't seen this level of innovation, this level of technology, and really allowing us to build a brand around this idea of both inspiring, but very importantly, also enabling people to go do the things they love. And so we've vertically integrated the electronics in the vehicle. We've vertically integrated the software stack. We've built a propulsion platform that's incredibly scalable. And a lot of that vertical integration on that platform has allowed us to go really fast on building out the commercial side of our business, with our first customer really also being a flagship, much like the R1T and the R1S, with Amazon. And their initial order being 100,000 of these vans, really allowing us to even further have impact in terms of how we electrify the full space.
Well, let's dig into Amazon. Bloomberg reported that Rivian is prioritizing the production of the Amazon van. You're obviously on a deadline to deliver 10,000 by the end of next year, 100,000 by the end of the decade. How are you going to manage that, your own consumer products and the constraints of having to deliver for Amazon?
Yeah, I think this is a misunderstanding. Often when people look at the business, we've designed the company at its core and really, in part, having these two different programs to create a forcing function for us to build and grow the ability to be able to develop multiple programs at the same time and launch multiple products at the same time. So when you see the R1T and the R1S and the commercial van, these are different teams that are developing them, different launch teams. They're even different production lines. So the van, of course, isn't built on the same line as the truck, and that separate team and that focus on discipline of building those separate organizations, of course, pulling from the same pool of resources, allows us to go very fast on two programs at once. And really the core of that is our desire to build out really our portfolio of products that's broad enough for us to achieve significant scale quickly and to have as much impact as possible. That's really the reason I started the company. It's the reason we had some of our early pivots as we designed and iterated on our strategy. Was really in service to the question of how do we maximize impact.
How critical has Amazon been to the various valuations the company's been assigned along the way, the credibility that Rivian's been able to build?
Well, Amazon's been just an outstanding partner. Of course, they're a major shareholder, but aside from that, and I would say much more important than that, is the collaborative relationship we have with them. And in the vehicles that we're developing on the commercial side, what you see on the surface is a really friendly, easy to get in and out of, very efficient, very easy to load and unload, a van that's optimized around last mile and has a whole host of applications. But what you don't see is all the infrastructure that we're building around that, what we call our Fleet OS platform, but essentially the ecosystem of services that we're able to wrap around the vehicle to make it very efficient to run. And to be able to work closely with Amazon and understanding what the needs are for us to build that system has just been awesome. It's been really exciting, and working to understand how do we find opportunities for efficiency, but also how do we make the environment for the drivers and the operators really comfortable and something that they want to come into.
So you've raised $10.5 billion in the private markets, I guess around $12 billion in the public markets. What are you going to spend that money on?
I think as you look at the scale of what has to happen as an industry, today there's well over 1 billion vehicles on the planet. A teeny fraction of those are electric. And really over the next 10 to 15 years, we have to electrify that entire fleet. We have to replace, well in excess of 1 billion vehicles, gasoline and combustion-powered vehicles, with electric vehicles. So the scale of this is just, it's in some ways unimaginably large. And it's going to require multiple companies to be building multiple products, portfolios of products that capture addressable market in different form factors, different segments. And for us, we're very focused on that. So what we're looking at today is our launch products, but making sure we have the capital to continue scaling the business, building additional production capacity for future products, continuing the development of those future products along with the technologies is really key. And we are really striving to help drive and lead this massive transition that we're going to have to see over the next 10 to 15 years.
Bloomberg's reported you're in talks with the city of Fort Worth to invest $5 billion in a plant there. You're looking at potential sites for a plant in Europe, potentially the UK. What's the update on those, please?
We haven't made any announcements around our second or third facilities. There's certainly a lot of speculation, but these are really important decisions. And for us, it really comes down to looking at the ability to recruit an outstanding team to come in and help drive and operate these facilities. So looking at the pool of talent that exists in each of these locations, these potential locations, as well as, of course, the access to the supply chain. So where our suppliers are and what the logistics looks like to bring components in.
On the supply chain, you delayed the start of production on the R1T more than once. You talked about a shortage of semiconductors. Where are the pressure points? Is it in semiconductors, rising commodity costs, labor? Where are you seeing the choke points?
I would say the biggest challenge that we have, and I would say broadly across many industries, is really the health of the supply chain. And if you think about building a vehicle like this, like our R1T, there's around 2,000 parts that come in from end item parts that come from suppliers. And this is one of those rare situations where a 99.5% is not good enough, meaning if 99.5% of the supply chain is ramping at the same rate of our production, but 0.5% isn't, that of course creates a constraint or a throttle for how fast we can ramp the rest of the facility. And that's certainly the world that we're living in, along with many others, of managing what is actually a small number of suppliers, but working really closely with them, partnering with those organizations to make sure they can keep up with our ramp. And that is a major focus for our team. And we're fortunate to have some great folks that are on the ground working with those suppliers, making sure we get through this ramp phase.
Rivian is subject to some litigation. 2 specific items the company has not been able to comment on because they've cited the quiet period ahead of the listing. The first being a former employee and executive who has accused the company of gender discrimination and quote, a toxic bro culture. Could you respond to that, please?
Yeah, we're not able to comment on anything in terms of active litigation, but what I will say is the most important thing that we're building as a company, the most important thing is our culture, is the organization. And it's something that I spend a tremendous amount of time on. And we really focus on making sure the organization and the people that we recruit into the organization and our leaders across the organization are empathetic, are open, have humility, drive collaboration. And of course, it's a diverse set of leaders. So as you look across the business, we have diversity in various parts of the business. And that's really important, really to drive diverse points of view and to make sure that as we think about making the thousands and thousands of decisions we have to make every week on the products, on what we're building, that those different points of view, those different backgrounds are coming together to make really high quality decisions and to create an environment where that continues. And that's something that across the team we're incredibly focused on.
Tesla has accused you of poaching employees and in the process taking trade secrets. Is that the case?
So today we're about 9,500 employees, and we've pulled our team together. We've come, as I said, from a very broad mix of backgrounds. So we certainly have folks that have come in from Tesla. We have folks that have come in from other automakers. We have a very large number of folks that have come in from consumer electronics and the technology space. And as part of that, it's really important to make sure that mix of talent coming from different places helps provide that diverse point of view. Now, of course, when we bring people in from previous roles, we make it very, very clear that they're not to bring any of their previous work with them or anything that they'd developed in previous roles in any company.
RJ, we're running out of time here. So much to discuss. Tesla's mission statement is to advance the transition to sustainable energy. What is Rivian's mission statement? Are you seeing yourselves going into similar fields where you leverage your tech in energy storage, batteries, things like that?
Yeah, as we think about the transition we have to go through as a planet, it is, as I said, very large. And the way we look at this, the lens we look at it through, is this is something where we really talk about keeping the world adventurous forever. And the key word I'll focus on there is forever. And it's such a powerful word because it's almost intimidating in that it causes you to think about not just ourselves or even our kids, but our kids' kids, and beyond. And so as we look at it through that lens, for us, it's a question of how do we, as rapidly as possible, transition ourselves away from a fossil fuel-based economy. And that, of course, has a huge focus on the transportation products, but it also includes energy products. And this is something that we will certainly get into as we really drive to accelerate that. And as part of this, we've got to pull customers in. We have to get customers excited about the products and really our focus on products that enable and inspire the kinds of things you want to take photographs of, doing those kinds of things. That's the brand we're building, and we hope that gets people excited about making this transition.